Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast. This is Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks,
And this is Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
and welcome to our latest episode. And one I've been very excited to do for a while now, since I learnt the identity of this particular man, and one I super excited for when we actually got this booked in, because this is everybody knows about Tom Woodruff Jr. and for good reason. You know, he played Alien in Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, the AVPs, and we've had the honor of talking to him plenty of times, which is always fun. And thanks to the work of Johnny Valaquin over at Strange Shapes, a lot of people now know about the life of Elijah Padejo. You know, the principal alien actor in the original Alien. Less is known about Eddie Powell and Roy Scammell, but Roy frequented conventions, and you could talk to him then, before he unfortunately passed. But there's one film where the experience of the aliens actors is just never really well documented. Can you remember the pretty much the log line of what we knew about these guys from the behind the scenes documentaries?
I mean, we knew they were dancers and stuntmen, and we had seen some of that in just the behind the scenes material of the home releases. And we knew that the suits for the xenomorphs, a lot of them were built to be very slimline, kind of spandexy, with only kind of built out highlights. So, because of the lighting, you would just see them move quick in the dark if they weren't the hero alien. But yeah, we didn't really know too much about the experiences of the creature performers for the second film. So I thought this was a great conversation with Carl Toop, who was the primary hero alien performer for the second film.
Hero.
Yes, hero in quotation, villain.
Yes.
But
So yeah, Carl Toop. I've known about him for a couple of years now, and I'd been trying to get him on the show, and I was so happy when we got him booked. And also just like to shout out to Peter, his convention sort of agent, I guess, um, for helping me arrange this. And I'll need to double check his last name for the outro so I can give him a shout out for anybody out there who wants to arrange appearances with Carl. But yeah, brilliant. Really enjoyed this discussion. Carl is a absolute gentleman, and it was a real pleasure to finally learn something about the principal alien actor on Aliens. This is, as far as I'm aware, a world debut of an interview with Carl. So an absolute honor and pleasure to have done this, and hopefully you guys and girls out there who are about to listen or watch this enjoy it. Carl, thank you very much for joining us today. Um, Aliens is really the only film in the series where we don't know much about the actors who inhabited the suits and brought the creatures to life. So, before we start discussing your time working on the film, could you tell us a little bit about yourself outside of Aliens? You know, who is Carl Toop? What are your interests and hobbies, and what do you do?
Okay. Well, I was born in London, South London, and a few years ago now, and was in London 5 years. Moved out, went to schooling down in the south of England, all boys grammar school, which was great, especially when they told me I wanted to be a dancer. That went down really well with the parents and the school. And then after that, I went to dance college after that, and that's how I got into the whole business. Did 3 years training there in Epsom, and then went off to do, well, basically worked in West End shows in London, cabarets in Europe, some television work. I don't know if you remember the program Top of the Pops.
Yep.
We were like the background dancers, so we used to do that.
Oh,
That was a good
yeah.
that was a good gig. That was, and then
What was that? Early 90s.
80s, 90s. Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the show started like the 70s, I think.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that was. And then, well, I did my main work was in the West End. Doing shows, Call Me Madam, My Fair Lady, Jumpers. What else did we do? There's a list of things I did in the West End. Then the other one was cabaret shows in Monte Carlo, Cannes, Nice, Germany TV. We did as well. So that's how I got into really doing the whole business. I was lucky enough at college because I couldn't afford to pay all my schooling. So the principal allowed me to do pantomime, which is a Christmas show in England, and I was allowed to get. That's how I got my equity card. So which was in those days was very difficult to get. You had to have a contract, and you had to be a certain age, and there's a whole deal to go through. And the principal found me a job up in Scotland to do a pantomime there, and they gave me the contract and everything, took it into equity, and I got my, I think it was they give you a temporary card to start with, and then you have to work so many weeks to get your full equity card. And so I was really lucky with that. So as soon as I left college, I had enough weeks to have my full equity card, and I could go straight into doing West End shows. So
that worked out nicely then.
That was a really good break for me in that aspect. So that was good. Yeah. But I think the hardest time I went through was when I was at the grammar school, and they found out that I wanted to go into theatre dance work, and that wasn't really accepted very well by teachers
Kids in the
and
80s,
pupils. Yeah. So we got through it. Just did
Good.
it, just
Well, that's what you wanted to do. So
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. But it's difficult to get in those days, getting people to accept that was your choice. Because grammar school is basically there to become a lawyer, doctor, or someone. Stan, who actually I think Keir Starmer. I think he's the deputy. He's running one of the parties in England. He went there. So pretty good school, but I don't think I let my parents down too much by choosing that job. So,
no, not at all. Not at all. He's still performing?
Sorry?
He's still performing?
No, not now. No, I was once I'd finished the film Aliens, I went back to the theatre. I was doing the shows in the West End again, and then I got asked to go over to an island in the Caribbean, St Barthélemy. St Barth, I don't know if you've heard of it, and French West Indies. And I was given the choreography to do in several of the hotels there. So I got my own dance group going over there. And so we were over there 12 years. I was doing choreography over there, and started a few of my own businesses out there, like looking after private villas, and we did a coffee roasting business as well. We built up out there as well. So that's when I started expanding to other things when we were over there. 12 years, and also the body tells you to slow down with the dancing side of things.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I listened to my body for once, and so went into diversified into other things really, and that's stayed there 12 years, and then came back to France. Came back to France then, because I'm in France now, and my partner decided that they wanted to buy this restaurant with a huge dance hall at the back, and we could seat like 250 people. A middle restaurant which was semi-gastronomic, and a front bar with sort of a menu of the day. And I'd been doing a bit of cooking, but like the maximum people I've ever cooked for was about 15, 20 people. And the partner decided to buy this place, and I was the cook.
Wow, a man of many talents then, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, no, it started okay. We're just doing sort of the business had been run down, so I think we started about 5. First day, I think we had 5 customers, and we built that up. And then the first Sunday, we opened up the semi-gastronomic restaurant. no reservations on the Sunday morning because we only did it on a Sunday. No reservations at all. So I was sort of standing there. Midday came, 30 people just turn up, and I was just panic, pure panic. But I then got into it, and the first New Year we had 250 people, and there's no bother, easy. So
Is that what you're still doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I've stayed in Well, now we've moved further down south in France, and we're now doing vegetarian markets.
Okay.
So we just do about 32 different dishes. We put on the stand, and then people just come and buy it. So
fair enough.
That's where I am now. And then now I'm 37 years, or 34, how many years afterwards, I'm now starting the conventions and aliens. So a new stage is starting now. So really excited.
Good.
Yeah,
That you're a really eclectic person from the sounds of it. That's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's been good. There's more to do, but I've done a bit of renovation on the way, because I like renovating houses. So we're on a third one now, so that's been good fun. Give me a slip disc at the same time, but it's good fun doing it. And,
what happened to listening to the body, Carl?
Sorry, everyone listening to me?
Yeah, what happened to listening to the body to slow down?
That was for you. Yeah. Now I need hearing aids probably now, so I'm not listening to anything at the moment. But no, it's been good. It's been a good life, and it seems to be getting better all the time. So
good.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. And also, thanks for joining us. We actually have a tradition on our podcast, and that is whenever we have a new guest on the show, we must ask them about the first time they ever encountered the Alien franchise. And for a lot of people, myself included, it was my first film in the franchise.
But you're a young chap, so yeah.
Yeah, but for you, there wasn't as much media
feel it, Carl.
around.
We don't feel it.
Yeah, I saw the first one. Can you imagine that?
But yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, so you had seen Alien before Aliens, and how was that for you? Like your opinion on the film, and
sorry,
just your opinion on the film, and then the knowledge of that kind of going into the one you were going to do.
Yeah, well, no, I loved it. I was at college. It was dance college at that time. I think there was a group of 20 or 30 of us. We'd gone out. I think it was the Wednesday evening show at the cinema. Never heard really of Alien, just saw it, so we went along. And then the classic scene, the whole, imagine 20, 30 theatrical students in the cinema, and then the thing leaps out of his stomach, and they're just screaming everywhere, girls running around doing pirouettes, like going mad. And no, it was a brilliant film. It was, you just, it was the first of its kind, I think, that managed the suspense that just kept going. Then all of a sudden, it just woke everyone up, and it's it's a good film. The subject being the alien, you don't actually really see it that much, and you just built this monster up in your imagination. And actually, when I saw the costume for the second, the Aliens, the film I was in, what I had imagined it was like from the film, it was I sort of imagined it how it actually was. So it was a lot was left to your imagination, and it was a great film. I loved it, and
it's always an effective tool for horror, but the whole leaving it up to your audience to make it up and scare themselves. But I mean, damn it, Giga's.
I think it was just the flashes of everything, and you managed at the end of the film, you built up your imagination of what the alien was actually like, from just the flashes from the film. So very clever.
No, definitely. Have you watched it much, since over the years?
No.
Fair enough. It's sci-fi not. I mean, this is something we tend to find with.
I must admit, it's not really my thing. It's I sit through maybe the film once, and that's it. But what I'm finding out from the conventions, the passion there is people for it. It's incredible. It's So maybe that is making me become more aware of what people see in these films. You know, it's something that I was missing. I have been watching like the film I was in and Predator, because I worked with Brian Prince and David Smith. They've been in the Predator films. So I thought I better watch their films just to know, or I have some conversation with them, which I didn't need because we had a great time. Yeah, and I could start appreciating them because I've seen how people, the passion from all these fans for it, and so I looked at it in a different light, and so maybe my next step is getting into all this.
And that is one of the things you'll find about sci-fi fans as well. We are a very passionate bunch
Yeah,
about these.
really, no, it's the convention. It's amazing, the passion that's there, and people. And I think people just come into leave the world outside, and they come into these conventions, and they're just in another world, and you can just see on their faces they've escaped to where they want to be.
Yeah, a form of escapism for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it is.
Especially the costuming as well. I'm sure you
Yeah.
can appreciate that. You know, literally
hide behind the costumes. No, it's great.
Have you seen? You mentioned The Predator and Brian Prince's performance. Have you seen Prey by any chance? The most recent one?
No.
Definitely recommend that. Dane
Yeah.
DeLagro, we had him on. He was the creature performer for that one. I think he was nominated for an Emmy recently for it as well. So
yeah, I've got some catching up to do. I admit.
And so you'll be in for a treat with that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while we've heard over the years plenty of stories about the casting experiences that the Colonial Marine actors went through for Aliens, we've never really heard much about the experience that the Alien actors went through getting cast in the film. Do you remember much of how you came to be cast in Aliens?
Yeah, well, I do remember. Don't know why, but I remember. I don't know why I was chosen. I remember what I was the auditions. I was doing a West End show. It's called Jumpers. It was a play by Tom Stoppard. Felicity Kendall was in that one, and it was. I was looking for a job to take on after I finished the Jumpers. So the agent phoned up and he said, "Oh, I've got an audition over at Pinewood for a film, Aliens." And I said, "Well," I said, "Is that anything to do with the first one? A few years ago." He said, "Yeah, but they apparently want to do a second one. Would you like to go?" And I said, "Well, why not?" He didn't actually explain what it was for. It was just to go along for the Alien casting in the Alien film.
So you had no idea it was for
I had no
work.
idea it was for what part or what role it was for. So I had a mate of mine. He was in another show. I said, "Well, come along. We'll just go along for a laugh," because I'd never been to Pinewood, so I thought it'd be good experience to go and see this. Where they filmed the James Bond and all those and that. And so went along, walked into the hangar, and there must have been about 300 other people who get this audition. So they take our name, height, what we're doing, what we've done, CVs, take all that. And then they sort of split us up into groups. And I forget who it was. I think it was Paul Weston, the stunt coordinator. He said, "Move like an alien." I've never seen an alien move. It's like neither had anyone else. But so there's all these. We're just having a laugh, really. Just trying to walk like an alien, move like an alien. And they whittled us down. They kept me and my friend who was there as well. I think they probably cut us down by about half. So it left about another 200 people for the rest of the day. Again, they started measuring us up size-wise and that. And again, these previous alien classes have to sort of crawl along the floor, and you just go along with it. And then they whittled us down again. I got selected, but at the end of the day, my friend didn't, so that was a shame, but it carried on. And then we were called back probably about a week later, and they asked us to do some wire work. And luckily, in the show I was doing in Jumpers, there was a scene where this NASA astronaut, goes along the back of the stage while Felicity Kendall was singing a song, and I was the astronaut doing that wire work, so I had some experience doing that, and
So it wasn't uncomfortable for you.
Well, you have to arrange the family jewels, okay? It's all right. If you don't get that right, then it's painful. And so what wired us up, and there was this tower. It must have been, I suppose, like 6 or 7 meters high, and I'm not that keen on heights, you know. The one on stage, I suppose, I was probably 3 meters above the ground and swinging across, so I wasn't too bad. It was probably about 7 or 8 meters, because it was at the top of the hangar. And then they said, just jump off and move like an alien. So now I'm waving my arms around, just trying to stay upright. And they allowed me to do it again. So they hauled me up again, and then I actually got the hang of it. You know, sort of a position they were sort of happy with. And then they went through everyone else for the rest of the day, and so they lined us all up. And it was James Cameron was there, Paul Weston, I think it was Tom Woodruff Jr. He was there as well. And they went along the line. They picked, as they were going along the line, they picked about 20 of us out. And they said that they were looking for about 13 to 14 people to play the aliens. So we'll let you know in a week's time, you know, what our decision is. So, well, I really didn't think I stood a chance, because, you know, there are other people there that, to me, I thought they looked pretty good aliens. You know, they essentially got the alien movement sussed. And then I was at the theatre. It was a matinee we were doing, and I got a phone call after we'd finished the matinee show from my agent, and he said, "What are you doing?" I think it was about October of that year. And I said, "Well, I'm still in this show, so I can't do anything." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, you've just been offered the role of the alien warrior. They didn't want the 13 people that they wanted at the beginning. They just wanted one, and they chose me." So I said, "Well, the problem is I'm still doing this show in the West End." So I went up to the management. I said, "I've been offered the role in Aliens as the main alien warrior, and is there any way we can work around it?" And then they phoned up the management team at Pinewood, of the production team for Aliens 20th Century Fox, and they came to agreement that I could miss out my matinee shows. They had me covered for my role in the show for the matinees, and I could go during the day to Pinewood, released early enough to come and do the evening shows. So I had a crossover about 2 months for doing the show and the filming of the Aliens. So it
worked out quite nicely.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, because everything just seemed to work. I got the job. Normally you can't get out of a contract just like that, and everyone really played the game and got me into it. So you know, I was so lucky. It was
yeah, that worked out real well.
Yeah, really well, because, you know, it's, the experience amazing. To do that. And the story about the other people that were picked out, they went over to actually get stuntmen in, rather than just, because I think the reason why I got the job was they were looking for someone fairly agile, because, you know, in those days I could get my leg up around my ear and that, and I was fairly tall. I wasn't that tall. I was skinny. I think that helped me, because the original actor, Balaji, he was, I don't know what height he was, but he was
7 something, I think. Yeah.
Yes, enormous. Like,
very skinny guy. Yeah.
Very skinny. So I didn't really I wasn't really anything like him, you know, built wise. But I think it's more of the agility that I got chosen for than the shape of my body.
Do you remember? Can you describe the kind of moves that you were doing during the audition? Do you remember?
It's just a bit of a daze, really, because you're a bit embarrassed, because it's like you're seeing everyone else doing really, really getting into it, and I just couldn't really, I was having a bit of a laugh really at the beginning, and then when as soon as you get closer to the the goal, you think, oh, I better take this seriously now. So you start working. So when we did the work with Paul Weston, he was helping us do it, and it was basically just walking, trying to make yourself not look too human. So which pretty tricky when you're just in sort of rehearsal clothes, but it
was it things like body posture and
yeah, but
movement?
Twisting around more head because the head was very important because once you got the costume on, the head was that dictated everything to how you played the role. You're having to balance it. The head's on your head, so your head's the neck. You've got the most of the weight at the back and you've got the lesser weight at the front, and depending on what the head was for, because they had some with the hydraulics in it, so you had all the weight at the back, so you were having to really strain to bring your head forward, and that dictated a lot of how you moved as well, and how fitted into certain tight spaces in the filming that. But so once we had the heads on, because we did when we did the wire audition, they did let us to try on the heads. So they had us moving with the heads on, and I suppose they saw how we were dealing with the head and everything. So it was they obviously liked it. So
yeah, obviously.
It was just when you see about 400 people going for the same job, and it whittles down to you, just think
that's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't believe it. It's just. And it was incredible for me. It was when the agent called me up and said, "You got the job." Well, that was
yeah.
A few screams went out. We had dial phones in those days. It wasn't the old mobile phones then. But,
it must have been an intense schedule, though, from Pinewood in the day going over to the theater at night.
They arranged things pretty well. Because a very early morning start, so I'd be there about 6. It wasn't every day either, so I might be called in 3 days during the week or something, depending on what they were filming that week. And also, you have a taxi pick you up in the morning at 6. You get in probably an hour and a half to get into costume and on set. And they did work around me a bit, because they used to change around the scene so that I could get my taxi back for the evening show. So I think the performance was at 8. Depending if we were Acton Power Station or the studio, it was about an hour, depending on traffic, to get back, and then I had to get ready for the theatre piece. So people worked around me, which was I felt quite good about that.
Yeah. Confidence boost, yeah.
This little old dancer from the West End is getting treated like a prince, so it was good.
Good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned obviously you were the main performer for the Alien, and that they went for stunt performers.
Yeah.
For the other guys. So one of the performers you would have worked alongside was Eddie Powell, who had been one of only 3 actors inside the suit in the original film. Do you remember? No, sorry. What was it like working with him? Did he offer advice?
I didn't really work with him on my own. He was. I think he dealt more with us when we were as a group with the stunt workers. I was with James Cameron. He did leave me up to on my own to do what I felt I could do in the costume and the spaces we were in. Paul Weston was there, and Stan Winston came in as well. But that was more to make sure if I was having any problems with the costumes moving, or if it was catching anywhere, or we had to change the attachment on the head. They were there to help me on that. But movement-wise, I think he was more there. Yeah, he was more there for the when we were groups of us. So it was more coordinated. We got all the movements roughly the same. As we were all, as it was group, like when we were all in the tunnel,
the ceiling,
group of us coming down from the ceilings and that.
Yeah.
So it was more coordinating what we were doing in movement wise as a group. And then
Yeah.
when I was on my own, I was allowed, really to do what I wanted. It was,
So he
but
didn't really like have any specific advice for you in terms of
no,
like, this is what I
not
did on the
not
first
for
one.
me. No.
Yeah, fair. Did he share any stories from his time on the first one, or
No,
was
it
it
didn't
all
really.
business?
It was for me. I didn't really get to speak to that many people because once I was in costume, that was it. I was locked in until we had lunch, and so I spoke to the actors more because I spoke through the costume, like when I was with Carrie or Cynthia. I was with them. We spent half the day together, so we'd be talking. I'd be talking to the mask or whatever, or with Carrie. We were spent a lot of time together. So it's more with the actors rather than the people who were telling me what to do. Obviously, James Cameron was there directing and telling me what he wanted. But no, it was no stories from him really, or what
Fair
happened.
enough.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, well, because like I was saying to you before we started, because there was so little prep for me to do, when I was reaching out to like some of the other people who were a part of the alien community, this was the question that came up, was like, ask him about working with Eddie. So
all right.
no, I mean,
No.
that's fair. And it's interesting to know, that he was there to make you look like all part of, one big wave of aliens, this
Well,
unity,
yeah,
this conformity in
yeah.
design.
The stunt work was more Paul Weston and Tom Woodruff because he was Tom Woodruff was the created the effects and everything, and then with Paul Weston he was controller of the stunts. But I think with it was just he gave us a few more details on the movements of the heads they wanted everyone to use, and so I think it was more on that level he helped people rather than the logistics of doing the stunt itself. Sorry, I can't help you too much on that one.
And unlike some of the other actors who have since played the alien in the later films, I mean, you had little in the way of reference material for how to be the alien. Like you were saying, they just told you be the alien. But
Yeah.
once you knew you had gotten the part, how did you prepare for your role as the main alien in the film?
Well, I'd looked at the screen test of Balaji when he was doing his screen test because I wanted to see if I can get any hints from him. But actually, when I think about it, it probably did help me watching that because he in the screen test. I don't know if you've seen it. The screen test that he did, he is using the head a lot. Well, he had the head on, so he's using the head a lot, and you're seeing how he's reacting to things around him. So that I suppose, yeah. No, now I think about it, I suppose it did help me away with on that side of the thing with the head. Like I'm saying, the head was the hardest bit to work. But then after that, it was keeping supple, being able to move, so you could maybe get away from looking too human. So you could twist your leg into a position that might not think, well, how did he get into that position, or an arm being in a different position, or being right up back and up high over your shoulders. So it's just finding that really those sort of positions that trying not to look too human. But the secret of it was keeping limbered up most of the time, so that you could give a weird position occasionally. But a lot of the scenes I was actually I was in confined spaces, so it was fairly limiting in how you could, you'd think you'd be able to do the movement, do the rehearsal. You think, well, actually, we can't do that movement at all. So you'd have to rethink the whole thing. But and some of the time you didn't even think, it was just so because like on some of the wire work, it was in so he wanted us looking as if we're crawling along the air chute, crawling along, almost floating. Well, actually, that was filmed vertically from up at the top, so that we were clambering up while they were pulling us up. So it looked like once they turned the film around, it looks like we were going along horizontally. So
that was the bit in the vents, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the vents, yeah. And so that I'd rehearsed that, and it was outside of the air vent. And then once I got in, I had to completely rechange it, holding the head because the head was hitting the sides all the time. So I had to make sure my head was up so it would follow the direction of the tunnel on that. So it was a day by day thing. I think that's why James Cameron he didn't give me too much instruction because he knew that once we were on set, because in Acton Power Station, that was most of that you couldn't move too much of the set around because it was fixed. So
it was a lot of figuring it out on the day then.
Yeah, on the day, and we worked pretty quickly, but we do 2-3 tests, and then he'd say, "All right, let's go for it." And, with his talent, he managed to see whether it was good or not, and we didn't waste too much time. So, it was, but yeah, it was. I think really keeping as limber as I could, to be able to adapt to whatever situation you put me into.
So physical flexibility then.
Yeah, physical flexibility, which I do not have anymore.
That damn old age.
Oh, yes. But no, I think that was the main thing really, and it was the head, working the head. So that was a daily challenge because there were different heads for different. There was light heads, there were heavy heads, there were the ones with the acid that was they had masks in so they wouldn't breathe in too much of the fumes from the acids. And was that a cat you got at the back? Adam?
Oh,
Adam,
me?
Yeah.
Cute.
My little rag doll.
A visitor. So the heads. Each day you have they put a different head on you. You think, well, how's this one going to play out? And it was interesting. You didn't really know when you did go, and you didn't really know what to expect. So, and luckily, the director James Cameron, he was with me. He was fairly patient. I think it was with most people, but he didn't throw wobblies with me or anything. So,
well,
he knew the alien was just as big of a star.
Sorry.
I said he probably knew the alien was just as big of a star.
Yeah,
people are going to see the alien
that's what I
too.
kept telling him actually.
Well, while we're on the topic of Jim, then he's well known for, let's say, some behavior on aliens and conflict and stuff like that. But I think one of the constants, like you said, was that with the actors, he wasn't this persona that people know him as this behind the scenes nightmare. So what was your experience like with Jim? Do you have any particular memories?
I enjoyed every minute with him. To watch him work is just he'd see things that you'd think, how the hell is that going to even look like anything? And you'd see it, you go back and see what they filmed, and it was like, okay, that works. It's and he had his what do you call them? He scribbles down what he wants. The boards that he
storyboards.
Yeah, so which were they're pretty amazing as well. Those pieces of art they were. And he knew what he wanted, and he did lose. He got, people weren't pulling their weight. Everyone's got to pull their weight when you're doing. It's got, something's got to be filmed, and everyone's got to be ready. And if you've got one or two people that aren't paying attention or just not pulling their weight, and it messes everyone's day up. It's you can understand someone having to get things back into order. So no, I never saw a moment that he got upset for any reason that he shouldn't have got upset for. When he did get upset, it was generally for a reason. I think most people accepted that. I don't think, and it wasn't that often. I didn't see it that often.
Do you think it's just been an overblown sort of urban hype behind this?
Well, I think what happened in Pinewood, I think the unions got on his back a bit, and I think that really upset a lot of people on the crew because of the hours they wanted to work. I think that was probably more of a problem. Are there bad stories with the cast, or I don't know?
I think the cast is generally very positive about their experiences with him. It's
Yeah.
just like some of the cultural differences that have been documented in the behind the
Maybe,
scenes
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But I knew he was upset with the unions at one point because they were really, the hours getting smaller. They come in at 9, have a cup of tea, and then let's have a meeting to see if we can do this sort of work today. And he just wanted to. He's a workaholic, I think. So he just wanted to work, and I think most people who were taking the job seriously did. It was an honour for most people to be working on the film. I think a lot of the cast were very proud to be on working on the film with James Cameron. So I think I can't say anything bad. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Don't need to apologise for that. No,
bad experience.
That's not what we're after.
Some people are,
No, it's just about your perspective on these, these stories that we've heard about in the past and these documented things.
He'd get angry, but I think he got probably frustrated with himself sometimes more than anything. He'd scream and shout, frustrated in himself that he hadn't got the image he was looking for, or the idea that he had in his head didn't actually work out. But I think most of the time it did work out because he thought everything through so much beforehand. I think he was very organised in every day he came in knew basically what takes he was going to do that day. So
did he get very specific with you in terms of things he wanted you to do while you were doing your performance?
Not really, because like I said, I think with the costume, once we were on set, he had to adapt slightly to the costume and the sets because of how the costume worked in the surroundings. But
he just dealt with it. He dealt with the reality of the situation.
He told me what he wanted, the idea he wanted, and how the scene was going to finish. So you had an idea of what position you need to finish that take in, so that we could continue on and get the finished result. But apart from that, maybe we had to take a few takes extra because of that. Because maybe the 1 or 2 didn't work straight off once the costume was in place. But we always had rehearsals before the takes anyway. So basically once we'd done the rehearsals, it went pretty smoothly. I think he just the way he explained what he wanted, I think that was enough of the direction for you to think, okay, I can see what he wants. Let's see what I can do. And basically let me get away with it. So.
And as far as the suit itself that you wore, I mean, the alien's considered a very iconic design, and the H.R. Giger's suit for the original film was very much a work of art in its own right.
Yeah.
And while Stan Winston's team had constructed some amazing alien puppets for the second film, the suits that people wore were notably much less detailed, done more for mobility and movement. So I'm curious as to what your initial impressions of the suit were when those first few times you saw it.
Yeah, the initial impressions was when I walked into my dressing room. It was just a line. I think there's probably about 10 of these lycra body suits with rubber bits stuck on them. There is no way that is going to look like what I imagined in my head. This is not. I thought this was like Hollywood. I thought we were, in the big time now. And really, the body suits were nothing to look at when they're hanging up on the hanger. And so we got me into the bodysuit, and you sort of zip on your feet because you've got separate rubber feet to zip on. And this is starting to come together a bit. Then you've got your hands, and then they put your head on. But even so, once you're looking in the mirror in the dressing room, you think, how's this going to work? But once I don't know if the light just played on the way the costumes are made, the way it worked. And we always say it had slime everywhere. That gave the effect of it. You know, it is when you see it in the film, you think, oh gosh, that doesn't look anything like what I was wearing. But
it is amazing how
it worked.
yeah.
I don't know how.
Well, I mean, it's amazing when you see like the pictures of your suit. You know, there are pictures of your specific suit. You know, with your name in the back of it out there, and when you see those black leotards with just odd rubber bits stuck on you, and then you see the finished film. It's
cause I think we had a back shoulder harness, which with the pipes, you know, the pipes coming out the back. So that was added on. Feet, the hands were added on. I'm trying to think what else was added on. Well, the head, the neck as well. There was like a collar thing that went on the neck. But no, you know, I think once it was, and you're never actually standing up saying, "Look at me." You're actually trying to, you know, you're covering up yourself most of the time. You're actually exposing the whole costume to the screen. So I think they got away with it quite well on that. But I think the design was able to catch the light. The light played on the costume a lot.
Stan and Jim knew what they were doing, didn't they?
Yeah. But the heads, I thought I preferred the head in the second film, I think, to the first one. I didn't like the smoothness of the first one. I personal.
That's something you and Adam have in common there. His
yeah,
alias.
There's like a fan preference. Like, do they like the aliens with the smooth heads or the ridged heads? And I've always preferred that as well, where they have
like
kind of the texture
heads,
design. Yeah.
It's just
so we've talked a little bit about this, you know, mobility, and you've mentioned obviously being in some of the wire work. So you know, that's something that we don't really know about what you did in the film. You know, I'm assuming you did a fair bit of stunt work then. It was you know, with Cynthia doing that crawl up the
going with Colette Hiller, the pilot.
But in terms of stunt work though, in terms of stunt work though, in terms of like wire work, you know, what was your experience doing those scenes?
Well, the wire work, I love the wire work. I really enjoyed that because it did turn the whole idea of filming the other way up for me, because you were able to do so much more movement wise. Like I say, they're filming you vertically, but actually showing it horizontally. So that really added to what you're able to do movement wise to get the effect of, you know, crawling, almost floating along. There was the one where I was run over by the APC. Is the APC the armed personnel carrier, and that was filmed in reverse. So I like start from underneath the APC, and then I have to come back up as if I'm running into it. So reversed image. So that was a challenge because I really need my muscles in my legs to get me up from basically a lying position up to walking position and then running backwards. So when it was filmed reversed, it was looking like I was running in as the APC was coming towards me. So that originally I couldn't see how it was going to work in my head, and then once we did one take, they showed me what the effect was, and you could say, okay, right, so I need to improve on that. But you know, the effect was what I saw. In the film, you can't actually see it that well. But for me, that was one of the scenes that was hard work. But the result I saw, which I don't think actually you see in the film, I thought I was pretty good. So I was impressed. But no, the wire work was good, and
you were working your legs in that scene as well, weren't you?
In the
when you're going up with Cynthia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I drag her up, and it's just. I don't drag her up too far. I think because there was one point there was another stuntman behind me as well. There was because he was having to deal with, I think, her
Her stunt double.
her stuff as well. So there was two of us behind her at one point, and that was fighting each other to sort of each do our role the best. But you don't see it in the film. It's just that was a good scene. And the one where I was in the pilot with Colette, that was a good scene. I thought it was going to be in the film, but it wasn't. But it made a good publicity shot.
Well, that actually goes right into our next question, because that is a very well-known publicity shot.
Yeah, no,
I'm sure you've probably signed a picture of it many times, of you in
few
the suit
times.
holding on to her in the dropship. But
Yeah.
we never see it in the film.
No,
And we've never even seen it in like any behind the scenes footage on the
No.
DVDs and stuff.
don't
But
know
but
why.
was it filmed though? Like
It was filmed, yeah, because
okay.
we rehearsed it and they filmed it. We did several takes on it. So for a film, if it's just for a photograph, we wouldn't have done all that filming and rehearsals. I don't think. But,
What
and it was
actually
quite a
happened in
tricky
that scene?
Well, it's just she was calling who was it? She was calling Daniel. What's his role?
Yes, Daniel Cash.
And he didn't answer, and then obviously you assume the aliens got him, and then I come up behind her in the cabin of the spaceship, or the plane,
The dropship.
The dropship. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm glad you know what you're talking about. The dropship. I just had to come out from behind of where she was sitting and grab her. Which I did, and again we were in a confined space because we actually had the screen. It was half screen of the front of the cabin, so we were fighting each other basically. Once I got hold of it, it was a fight afterwards. But I don't know why it wasn't put in the film. But maybe maybe it was too obvious because we were working with our minds, because you think, oh well, Daniel's been taken, he's gone. Now it's obvious he's going to be taken, isn't it? So, and then the thing crashes, and you know what's happened then, basically. So maybe it was just too obvious.
So it was a bit like a prolonged struggle between you two.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just
it wasn't that prolonged, but it's just that you see the image I saw when they were on the screen, just of the take. It was you see me coming up from behind her, grab her, and then she's starting to fight me, and then we just sort of leant back, and that was it. So
okay.
No.
So another one. So obviously that publicity shot is very well known and iconic, but another iconic moment from the film that you're very, you are there for, is when the alien rises out behind Newt and Kerry Hen in the water.
Yeah.
What was it like filming that scene with all that water and working with Carrie?
It was a brilliant 2 days we did on that one. Well, I did. Carrie didn't, because obviously it was being in the water. But I loved doing that. That was probably one of the best parts for me of doing the film. Was working with Carrie. She, amazing child actor she was. She wasn't even an actress really. She was just brought in as you probably know the story. And no, she just got on and did the job. I never saw her complain. I think she just saw it as a playground in a way. Some of it was
that's the way she's described some of the scenes, like the tube that she has to fall down.
It was one of the few times they took my helmet off while we were doing the film. So because it was, I can't remember the size of the pool, but it was warm, and it wasn't too bad. So it was probably about 60-70 meters deep, so it wasn't too bad. So she could stand up in it. I think it came up to her chest. And so while we're waiting, we'd sort of be sitting around, just chatting away. So I took my head up so she wouldn't be too scared, which she wasn't anyway. So I think she was so used to it by then. And because they gave us drinks and that to keep warm, because obviously once we were in the water, they wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. So obviously there were breaks in it. So it was great with her. She, we just had it with a child. You just have a good time. She was doing swimming lessons sort of thing in the water and that. But No, it was good. And I think the idea of it was I did all my rehearsals beforehand of how I was coming out of the water, and Carrie never saw any of that. I don't think on the first day we did it, and the first take, I don't think Carrie actually knew I was coming out of the water from behind her, and I think the reaction that you get in the film was a real surprise. She was sort of surprised to see me coming out of the water. Right over I was. So I think the reaction you get from her was quite a natural reaction of a child with a monster coming out behind her. No, that's a good scene to do. So when the first day I did it, the head that they put on me was one of these. I think it was like a sponge, and I don't think it was the right head that.
Not in water, surely.
On the water, no. So James goes, right, go underwater, count to 3, or he banged on the side of the pool because you could hear the banging, and then on the third bang, come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Couldn't get my head up. It's just because we had gone under. The head had just taken all the water and just.
Oh man.
I had stuck on the floor, so I managed to get my hand up, which because the costume was filled with water as well. And then luckily there was someone in the pool that just sort of managed to haul me up. But that was health and safety in those days. That was as good as it got. So
just see what happens.
Just change the head and do it again, So, but the second time was fine. The water didn't soak into the head. So
did they change? Did they change to a different material?
Changed the head. Yeah. Well, they had all the heads prepared, but they hadn't put the right one on. I didn't know which was the right one because they all looked the same. But the actual material they used was different. So that once that was out of the way, then nothing else could go wrong really. So, but it was a good scene to do. It was good fun. And I like that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very iconic moment again.
Definitely.
Knowing what Carrie saw, her reaction and that, and it's just I think it just worked, and it's I'm proud to have done that one. Yeah, it was a good one to do.
I think just like you, Carrie's been getting a bit more involved with fandom in recent years, like going to the conventions herself and stuff.
Yeah, well,
we spoke to her a few years ago.
I'm not. Yeah, there's something in the pipeline. I can't say anything until I know it's definite, but we might be getting together. So
we'll have to keep our eyes out for that.
Yeah, if it happens, that'd be great for me. It'd be great to she won't know who I am, but it'd be great to see her, and she might have memories as well that I can't remember. She saw it in a different child's eyes. So, but if that comes off, that would be a good day. So.
I'm excited now. I'm curious.
Because until anything's definite,
yeah, of course.
We don't know. So.
And as far as iconic scenes in Aliens, there's another one where the aliens, make their way into the operations center, and the Marines that are holding up there. There's this big battle between them and the aliens, and there's just so much going on with the aliens crawling through the roof and breaking into the room, and gunfire and explosions everywhere. How was that sequence filming that?
Well, it was hectic. It was, and I was working with because they were stuntmen as well, so they really knew how to throw themselves around. I was a bit more of the dainty dancer in the costume, really, but they really throw themselves around. Because I think one of the scenes I was leading them. Basically, I was just the first one in the shot, so you got the movement of the heads and arms, and then after I'd gone through, then you just had all the stuntmen coming through, and it was like a war. It was just, and they were just shoving, pushing, and noisy as well. Scream. No, they don't. Stuntmen don't scream. They I don't know what they do, but yell and swear.
Manly grunts.
Yeah, that's what it was. So that was an experience for me because I wasn't in their league stunt wise because they'd throw themselves 3 foot down onto the ground. Well, I have trouble with 3 feet off the ground. So no, it was good. And they showed me ways how to move and how to fall as well. So teach me if I had a distance to drop, how to land, how to sort of do it without hurting myself. So, no, because they were usually group scenes, so it was all very, very hectic and shoving around, and even though we had a bit of direction how we should be moving, I don't think people took that much attention. It was that hell for leather. You just get down, fall out the ceiling or whatever, and run off. It was it was a good learning experience for me, because I'd never done stunt work like they did. My stunt work was more, well, it wasn't really stunt work. It was more body movement, rather than doing all the tough stuff. So,
Were you giving like your advice back to the stunt guys as well? Like, here's how I'm
would I
moving as the
dare? Would I
alien.
dare? No, no. It was no. They didn't need my advice. It was most of them had been doing the business for years as well. That was their training. So, but no, it was a good crowd. And they were helpful, and it was a great experience for me, because it was a learning thing as well. So probably decided that I didn't want to do stunt work. When you see how they damage their bodies, what they do to their bodies, some of it's unreal.
And how about working with Stan Winston and Tom Woodruff Jr., his whole crew? Like, how was your experience with those guys?
Well, they're just artists. What can you say? He was a gentleman. Stan Winston was a real gentleman. It was their passion. It's like when you see some of the miniature work that they did. The Queen Alien. Yeah, it's amazing, the detail that they had in everything. The detail. You'd see the life-size alien queen, and then you see them with the miniature queen. When we went back to Pinewood, the studios, incredible. And like you're saying, the detail on the suits, the body suits. I think he knew what he was doing. He toned it down from the original film, but I think him and his designers knew what they were doing, what effect they were going to get under the lighting and the grease, the KY jelly, whatever they're putting on us, and it was and you're going into his workshops. That was because they were working on other stuff at the same time. I don't know if he was doing the Little Shop of Horrors or they were combining.
I don't know. They were next door, weren't they?
Yeah, that was being filmed at the same time. So it's quite funny in the canteen, where you get all of the alien soldiers and then you get all these 50s sort of bright coloured costumes and that. That was quite amusing. But because he did I can't remember what other things he had in there, but it was a museum. He's just because that wasn't his basic. Wasn't his fixed studio. This was just a temporary one. So.
Yeah.
And the work he had in it, and there's quite a few people working with him on that film as well. I think, and they were able to any detail they were able to change. Like an hour, they'd be able to get the whole. If James Cameron didn't like something, he said, "Right, we need to change that." In an hour, it would be done. And you think, how they do that, get it dry, and but, they knew what they were doing. But and no, he was a real gentleman. It's very proud to work with him, or honoured to work with him.
So you mentioned the Queen. The big giant puppet. I'm curious. Did you actually film much around or with the puppet? Because obviously there's the hive sequence.
Yeah, I did. There's another stuntman with me, and we did a lot around the feet of the alien queen. So there was, and then a lot of this. Where there was, I forget which scene it was. We were sort of around her feet, like there were sort of her minions around her feet at one point in the film.
I don't think that's been. Yeah, I don't think that one ever made it in.
No, because
there's bits
her.
where you're in like a corridor just slightly coming out, and that
And
bit.
they,
So was
they
that
blast
actually?
their head off or something, I think, at that point,
Well,
don't they?
she sort of warns you back off, and you back off, or
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
backs
yeah.
off.
That's yeah, that yes, yeah. That's the one. Yeah,
Okay, but
but I
that
think
was with actually the
with yeah,
giant
she was
puppet.
there. Yeah, yeah, she was there. Impressive, very impressive.
Mm, I
Yeah,
bet.
'cause well, yeah, no, all those end scenes were very with Sigourney and that the whatever that machine was that she was in that
Mm,
that seeing that and the Queen together is on set is because the thing well because a lot of it was done in Acton. No, actually, I don't think those scenes were. They were probably in Primal. But a lot of the scenes that were done in Acton uh, Power Station, everything was so real. You know, even
mm.
the atmosphere in the power station was the atmosphere that was in the film. That's how you felt when you walked into the power station. So no, that was it was the setting of that was really gave a lot of the atmosphere that was in the film.
Yeah. Did you do the stunt the wire work for that bit as well? Because there's a scene where there's a alien running along the side and gets shot off by Ripley.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah,
That was you.
I
Nice.
was going to say that's one of my favorite shots of the alien in that film is where it jumps on one wall and then flips around
bounces
and
off.
jumps
Yeah,
on the other.
yeah,
So
So
that
that
was
was you as
yeah. I think that because that again, yeah, that was for they used me for that one because of the being supple and
Mhm.
light to move around in that on that scene. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
I
a cool
when you're on
moment.
wires, it's sorry.
Saying that was a cool moment. I love that
Yeah, yeah,
that
that was
movement.
yeah, well, that was good. Yeah. Thing is, when you're doing some of these scenes, you don't actually can't imagine how good they are going to come out on the screen.
Mm.
So you do forget something. When I watch the film, you think, oh gosh, yeah, I remember doing that. And, so I must watch the film a bit more. Really.
and I wanted to I know you haven't seen Alien Covenant, but I had a specific question for you that I was curious to get your thoughts on. So in that movie, suit performers were used on set for like lighting reference, but almost all the creature effects were replaced with computer generated imagery. And while there's a lot of skill and artistry required for motion capture and CGI animation, do you personally feel like there's something lost when you're not seeing some physical shots of an alien on the film?
The job. No. Um, I think I think you can see it when it's been numeric. What do you call it? Being done on a computer. I think
Animated.
should I, yeah animated. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I think you can see the difference.
Well, I mean, it's a thought that's
Maybe
shared by
this
a
is
lot of people.
sorry.
Saying it's a thought that's shared by a lot of people. That
Yeah.
is
Uh,
in this day and age, it's practical. That's very sort of revered and used as a buzz
yeah.
for some marketing.
Yeah. It's, yeah, it has come on a lot, the numeric side of stuff. But I remember seeing Titanic, and I think some of the scenes in that I could really see that they'd used computers on doing those scenes. The film was so good, and then you just had these few scenes where it's done numerically. And I just thought it's a shame. If they'd have found a way of doing it, filming it, directly, it would have been a lot better. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I always feel like it works best when there's a good combination because then you just play to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
strengths
yeah,
of each one.
yeah,
But
exactly. But there's certain scenes that I think need to be done by the human movement, the costumes, the textures of the costumes, the material. I don't know. It's, probably if you showed me a film like that, I probably couldn't tell the difference anyway. But in my mind, it's it's yeah, because when you think in my generation, films were films you did everything was done for real. So it has really, it has changed. It's moved on, which it had to. But and it takes probably more people to produce a film now than it did when you're doing using real actors and the real scenes. When you see the list of people that have to make an animated film, the list just goes on and on and on. There's so many different crafts needed for it, and I think when you're filming live like we were, it was you just got on and did it, and you could easily correct mistakes. But whereas the numeric now, it's a whole process to redo a scene, and a scene you just can't redo in 5 or 10 minutes. It's going to take weeks probably to redo that scene. So, that's my I'm probably more keeping the actors going than
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, you do see incredible like motion capture performance too by like Andy Serkis, right, and his
Yeah.
performances. But yeah, with Alien in particular, I think there's a legacy of this kind of practical effect that we as fans love seeing at least represented at some points in the film. But when all was said and done in Aliens, and you wrapped the film, did you get to go to the premiere? Like how was that experience?
Yeah, that was great. It was in London. I think which cinema it was, but no, I got my invitation for that, and
I think it was Leicester Square, by the way.
Leicester Square, yeah.
The
I've got
Odeon,
the
I think.
invitation somewhere. I should have read up on that first. Yeah, that was great. It's, I wasn't actually. I was in a few of the sort of group photographs, very few. I don't think any of them were used because no one actually knew who I was. So.
The joys of being behind the mask.
Yeah, that's the glory of it, I suppose. And yeah, the screening went really well. That was good. And then we had the after show party. It was in the gardens in South Kensington. It was above a departmental store. I don't know if it's still around. I don't know if it was John Lewis, but it was this nightclub that was on top of the departmental store. It was called the Gardens, and amazing. I think it was Glenn Close was there, sitting in the corner, looking like nothing. It's just I can't remember who did turn up, but there was a great after party as well. But the premiere, it was impressive because
But did you like the film? That's the key thing. Did you? When it was all there.
Yeah, I did. Well, no, I was just in awe of it because it's the work that everyone had done, the actors, the direction and everything, costumes and that. And you just think, how did they do it? It's like, how did they bring it all together and create that? And the music added on. And I was in it. It was really
brilliant film.
In awe of it. It was, and I was in it, so it was like,
wow, like that's me.
And my name came up at the end, and it wasn't last, so it was like, I've made it. That was a very proud moment for me and my people around.
Too right.
Yeah, so very lucky to have done it.
Were you still in London when Alien War was a thing, or did you gone away?
I'd gone away. I left.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably left in '89.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
so, I mean, after Alien, you didn't seem to pursue a career in film.
Well, because I've been dancing so long, and it was quite hard to build yourself up in that. When you are a dancer, you are the lowest of the low in the business. The dancers aren't the highest in the rating. And I'd actually built myself up quite a good reputation in that dance world and I was doing choreography, so I had work guaranteed after I'd finished the film, because the film we did the film, so everything stops and you think, oh gosh, got to get a job. But luckily I had jobs lined up, and then you see the film, and then everyone's gone on to other things, and I'd really gone back into the dancing side of everything and theatre. So it wasn't anything that actually came up again I was asked to do again afterwards, because James Cameron didn't do a film after that needed someone working in a costume directly afterwards. I don't know what his film after that was, but after he did Aliens.
I mean,
the Arnie one?
So,
Was it the one with Arnold?
True Lies.
Yeah.
and was that filmed in
Or
the
was it
States?
T2? I'm not sure, actually. I can't remember what came directly after.
And was that filmed in the States?
Uh,
Yeah, T2 was.
no,
in
it was
LA.
Abyss. It was Abyss next. The Abyss, then it was T2, then it was True Lies, then it was Titanic.
Right, no, so. And if it was filmed in the States, then they probably wouldn't have asked me anyway. And then I had gone on to other things because it's life goes on, and I was doing pretty well, so I was.
That's fair.
It was a great experience that turned up in my life, doing that film, and then life continued after it. So it was,
if you had been asked to do more like creature roles, though, would you be up for it? Like,
yeah, because I did enjoy doing the work. It was using my trade in another way, and I was hiding behind a costume, so that liberates you slightly more. I don't know why it should, but you can liberate yourself even more when people can't see you. I'm a pretty shy person generally, and when I'm on stage, I can do. If you ask me to do something, I'll probably do almost anything. But out off the stage, I won't. But once I get or when I used to get onto the stage, I was able to become someone else. But when I got into a costume, you could really just let go.
You were literally someone else then.
Yeah, and you could make a fool of yourself and didn't really care. But, it could have worked or it didn't. Whatever you were doing, some movement, you think, oh God, I'm going to be really stupid doing this, but you did it anyway just to do it. But I was in a costume, so it helped me get over that shyness, I suppose. So
I've known that with a lot of actors, especially like theater actors. You see it a lot. They get on stage and they can, just do whatever. It doesn't matter.
Because people can still see your face, but you are playing a role. So I don't know. It does. It's a good therapy. If you can get the nerves up to do it, it's good therapy if you want to get yourself out of yourself, or
So talking about being shy,
Yes.
you've started making convention appearances over the last few years. That is not shy.
Well,
and that's another thing I love to hear about is the experiences of actors. Doing these conventions. Have you had any like sort of fan interactions that just stick out to you? What's that experience been like?
I just love it. It's just seeing people so happy. It's like for me, no one knows who I am. Well, my face. They've never seen my face. I was in a costume, and I get people coming up to me, and they're either crying, or they won't come to me. So I have to, I go to them, and it's just for me. I'm just obviously touching something so strong for them in their lives, and it's making them happy. I love it. It's well, I never thought I'd be doing this sort of thing. For me, I'd never spoken about aliens since I'd done it. Really, it was a job. I did it and moved on. So to be asked to do this and then see the reaction of people that either saw the film or they've seen it because their parents, now their grandparents saw it. These young people coming in and they're in awe of the character, and it's amazing. I love it. And talking to them, and they're so generous. Like gifts like that.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome.
For our listeners, it's a little colonial marine with a face like
I'll keep that probably forever, because he spent a lot of time doing that. He said, "I've made this especially for you." And it was when we were in Florida. There was, I think, 7 of Cynthia, Mark, William, Rocco, and Michael. and he'd done one for everyone, but depending on what their character was, and because the material he had wasn't the color of an alien, he did the face hugger for me. So that was that's things like that, and it means so much to you because it sounds really corny, doesn't it? But it's just
knowing you've
I never
impacted
thought I'd
somebody
be
like
able.
that.
Sorry.
Knowing you've impacted somebody like that in some way.
I never thought in my life I'd be able to impact people like that. Like you say, it's just it's an honor to that people want to come and see you, and they talk to you. I'm lucky. I don't have queues for days, so I can spend time with them, and we talk and their experiences. And then there was I had one guy, young guy, he was 16 or 17. He came up to me with his mother, and I could tell he was really shy, really nervous, and I said, "It's fine. What would you like?" And so I signed the autograph, and he just went. So that's fine. There's no problem. And then probably an hour later, he came back with his father, and his father said, "I'm really sorry, but he just felt he missed the opportunity of spending some time with you, and he feels really bad, and I can't calm him down." I said, "Well, that's fine. Come on, we're going to have a sit down and have a chat." And it turned out that he wanted to be a dancer as well.
Okay.
So I managed to break the ice with him on that because he was saying this is what you want to do, and his father wasn't too happy about him doing it either. So I had that experience as well, and so I spoke to him first. His father came up and he heard what I was saying, and it broke the ice between the son and the father for what he wanted to do in the future. So that was a moment for me that had nothing really much to do with film, except that I wouldn't have met that young lad if I hadn't done the film, and then had that experience of being able to help him maybe in what he wants to do next. So that was.
I imagine that was quite gratifying.
That was a good moment. But you get the characters come up to you, the guys in costume and that. I love it.
Have you come across many fans in in an alien's costume?
Only one so far. Only
okay.
One. That's the one I was saying about earlier. But and a very good costume as well. So
that was in Florida, was it?
That was in Florida, yeah.
How about the Colonial Marines? Do they?
Oh yeah,
you get lots of those.
Yeah. And I think
I bet when
Ripley as well with the cat. I think she came with a cat. So.
I bet when you come to London, you'll find a couple of alien costumers.
Really?
Because
well,
there's a UK costuming group, the UK Colonial Marines, and there's Colonial Marines and aliens. I bet you'll see some in July.
Well, I hope so, because it's it's just a pleasure to see it. Because without the fans, that doesn't keep the legend of the film going either. The fans are very important, especially so many years on, and it's keeping the whole thing going. And they seem to enjoy it, which is
we do. We love it.
I know it's amazing. I love it. It's opened up a whole new world to me. It's the convention thing. And I hope this is the next stage in my life to be able to do some more of these and just travel a bit more as well.
It's gonna get you around.
And there's more in Europe as well. I want to do because I think there's some in Amsterdam one coming up, and that hasn't been done before. I don't think, but I don't know. So,
cool.
If it continues.
I think you've also seen kind of an increased interest recently of like movie monsters and creature performance and stuff. Like you were saying, not everybody knew who you were at the premiere, but these days, like that's one of the first things we want to know is like who's playing the alien, who's playing the predator. So
well, we see it a lot on the conventions. It's a lot of the voiceovers are doing very well on some of the manga films. You get the voiceovers of those, and it's the voiceover of the voiceover sort of thing. And they're really doing well. The fans are really out for them, and your costume people as well. It's I think costume work. People are appreciating it more, especially when it's done by real actors now. It's quite a novelty now to see a real actor in a real costume. So,
and I think it's also a bit of reverence for the method of filmmaking, and that method of performance.
It's sort of going back to retro sort of film, isn't it? It's sort of the film traditional film, and they've done all the numerics, and now people are maybe looking a bit more for the traditional way of filming. It's like the CDs, and now people are now buying vinyls.
Yeah,
it's all going back to what we used to do before. So every method has its different attraction. It's CDs, you don't get the crackly sound. LPs, you get the crackly sound. So what you prefer. It's, and memories and reminiscing, and that's good.
And that's actually everything from us. But before we sign off and let you get back to the hive, is there anything you'd like to share? Any anecdotes or thoughts that we haven't given you the chance to tell us with any of our questions?
I think we've covered everything. I think we've talked more than I've ever talked in my life, especially about the Alien film. So, no, I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me on. It's I'm amazed anyone would want me on, and it's been nice sharing some of the memories, and it's probably jogged my memory as well for other things that you forget. And then, oh yeah, no, we did that. And also keeping the whole Alien thing going. It's it's great what you do.
Thank you.
Very good. So,
the film's made a huge impact on us. And
can I ask why? What?
I think they frightened you as a child.
For me, it was morbid fascination, I think, is the way to sum it up. So,
which was the first one you saw? The
Aliens.
Aliens. Okay.
So, I saw it far too early. It was the night before my 5th birthday.
Oh wow!
I remember it very specifically, and we got to the first sort of chest burster part of the film, and I bricked it, and it had to be turned off, but it led to me having 5 years of nightmares. Literally 5 years of nightmares. I would sleep face down on the bed because my logic was, while my chest was against the mattress, a chest burster couldn't come out. So, but during all that time, I was fascinated with it and obsessed with it and scared of it. Like the images of the alien on game covers or magazines or stuff like that, I really wanted to look at, but I didn't dare look at it. And it wasn't until I was like 10 when my dad was like, enough of this shit, come on, sit down and watch it. No, it was more of a, you're obsessed with this, I know you are, let's get through this. And I'd seen him start to watch the film, realize what he was doing, turned around, walked out. He was like, no, come on, we're watching this. And from that point on, it wasn't so much morbid fascination, but it was just a genuine obsession with the film and the lore around it and these creatures. It was, for me, it was very much around the tension, the horror, the creature design and stuff like that then led to diving deeper and deeper into this wider world of Alien. So that's where I did, yes.
I finally got over it.
I mean, I've had dreams about Alien since. I had a dream where I was actually a creature performer on a film, doing wire work, coming down like a pillar in like a hive scenery and stuff like that. But not nightmares these times.
Wow,
I don't know if my introduction to it is as psychologically interesting as Aaron's, but I would just see like toys here and there and I'd be like, what are these monsters? Like, these things look so cool and different. So I would just see the Alien. I didn't really watch it until I was kind of in my early teens, but I would just get there was also this thing at Disney World that was on one of the rides. It was like a movie ride, and in one sequence they had like the 79 film Alien. And so seeing that there as a kid, I was like, what is this thing? This is just so cool. So I would just keep seeing it, and then eventually I became more aware of what it was. I played some of the video games, and then I watched the movies, and I was just always into it. So
incredible. That's great. It was great that you are, because it just keeps the legend going. So brilliant.
Yeah, and we're lucky as fans because it does keep going. I mean, there's still books to read, there's still comics and games, and we have a movie coming still. So
yeah, I saw that.
And it's personally gratifying as well to be able to do these things like with you. You know, there is a great deal of documentary around the films, fortunately, but we get to try and fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
So when like I saw you, I was like, nobody's ever can talk to Carl. The he has he has a part of this history
yeah,
that he needs to tell, in my opinion, that you needed to tell.
Yeah.
So to be able to talk to people such as yourself
yeah.
to fill in
It
those
just fills
gaps,
in the
to
gaps. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and to give a voice to people that these other things haven't been able
And we probably
to get hold of.
I'm sure you've spoken to the other actors on the film, and
Some of them,
all
yeah.
we've probably all got different
Mm,
ideas of maybe the same scene or something. And we see it, some seen things from a different angle or things. So
yeah,
it's interesting. Yes, like you say, it just fills in the gaps from the other side, really. So,
yeah,
brilliant.
definitely.
Well
And
done.
you were the last alien person that
Well,
so I very much appreciate you taking the time.
well, no, thanks
Yeah.
for
Thank
asking
you.
me. It's an honour.
Do you
Keep up the
have
good work.
thank you. Do you have any particular outlets that you want to refer people to?
Well, I just well, what I might do is send, because we're trying to get a page up for me
Okay.
on Facebook. Well, I'll send you the details when that's up and running. I think it's sort of up, but I can't remember the address of it. So I'll
Okay.
send that to you. Yeah. But
Uh,
well, I think we mentioned. I don't know if we mentioned it on live, but doing the London
yes.
convention in July. So if you're hanging around, I'm there. So it'd be great to see you.
Indeed, I'll be going to see Carl as well. So
You're coming? Oh, great.
yeah.
So meet the flesh. Brilliant.
Mm. Well,
And Adam's popping over?
no, I think if he can't get around America for conventions, he's not popping over to England for
Okay.
conventions. No, I'm the guy that met. Oh, you probably don't remember. I'd commented on one of the posts where you were announcing it, where I was like, I've got specific things I like to get signed, and you were like, just bring them. I'll tell you which one's me in that
Oh,
particular
right. Okay.
scene.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be rocking up
Yeah.
with a bunch of
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Going,
Yeah.
Carl, pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, did you send me the photographs or
No, I didn't send you the
no?
photographs. I'm
Okay.
bringing. I'm just going to
Okay.
bring a
Bring them.
bunch
Okay.
with me.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the ones.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
cool.
Great.
So I'm hoping to have this up before the convention. So if you are listening to this before the
Yeah, that'd be
convention,
great.
you are a UK guy or
Yeah.
girl, come to London, come see Carl,
Please
give us
come.
some love.
It'd be great to see.
And that was our interview with Carl Toop. I hope you enjoyed listening to that as much as we enjoyed talking with him about this time in his life working on aliens as well as juggling other projects at the same time.
He had a very eclectic life, and it was really interesting to learn more about this absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
And um, and it was Peter Valderrama who was his appearance manager, and that's a company called Silver Screen Appearances. I will leave a link to their social presence and website in the description. So if anybody out there wants to arrange any appearances with Carl, that's the way to do it.
And if you've enjoyed listening, be sure to leave us a review or any sort of feedback on a podcast platform you happen to be listening to, or if you're watching us on YouTube. It really does help us out, and we very much appreciate it. If you'd like to find us on our website, it's just avpgalaxy.net, where we have discussion message boards as well as a lot of different features, our editorials and interviews and reviews. You can find that all on our site. And we're also on all the major social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you just search AVP Galaxy or Alien versus Predator Galaxy, you're sure to find us.
And that's versus as in VS. Because we didn't do the entire thing. I pushed us away from AVP.
Too
I
much.
pushed us away from the abbreviation AVP many years ago, but not from versus. That's still just VS. But yeah, thank you once again to Carl for joining us, and thank you to Peter for arranging it. As Adam says, comments, likes, reviews, it all helps our visibility. And if you are, friends with any Alien fans who would be interested in in this video, in this podcast, please do feel free to share it with them. We, also thrive on community and word of mouth. So thank you if you are, and please think about doing if you aren't. You can find me on Twitter at _Corporal Hicks.
If you'd like to follow me personally, it's just at RidgeTop21 on both Twitter and Instagram.
Indeed. This has been Corporal Hicks
And RidgeTop,
signing off.